Today, I'm going to talk about the top 10 stock trout fishing baits that always work. What is up, Outdoor Mavericks, and welcome back to the channel. When it comes to trout fishing baits, there are hundreds, if not thousands of baits on the market, and some work and some that always seem to work. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the top 10 baits for stock trout that always seem to work. And we're kicking off the list at number 10. To kick off the list, we're starting out with mice tails. Now, this is a Berkeley fishing product that can be used in multiple different bodies of water and applications. The best part about mice tails is they're really durable. The egg with the tail at the end can be fished for multiple trout over and over again. The egg doesn't get chewed up very easily, which means you can use it for multiple trout. My record is to catch 12 on one single egg. And the great part about mice tails is they float and they've got movement on them. So a little bit of movement under a bobber, or you got a little bit of flowy water like a little creek, or you're plunking them off the bottom. A little movement goes a long ways with the mice tails, and they always seem to work in different bodies of water, especially smaller bodies of water. Now, mice tails only come in about 8 different colors, but all of them seem to work really, really well. You got some more natural colors, and you've got a mixture of brighter colors like chartreuse, red, and orange. But the one question I have when you're fishing mice tails is, why wasn't this product called trout tails? Now, coming in at bait number 9 is plugs, and this is one of my favorite baits when it comes to trolling for trout at all times of the year. There is nothing better than a big plug takedown, whether it's a small stalker trout or a large stalker trout. Just getting that rod tip to fold over and whack down is some of the best sounds and the best things that you can see. And the best part about plugs is there's so many different varieties on the market. You got Rapalas, you got Yakima baits, and each one of them has something different that brings to the table. And that's why plugs are great and versatile when it comes to chasing stock trout. Now, whether you're fishing them up higher, more suspended, or down low on downriggers, that rattle and that movement is what gets the trout attention. It really gets the trout fired up and really wanting to go chase that plug. And plugs are really versatile because you can add a little bit of scent on the top of them to get a little bit of a scent trail behind those plugs, but also you can add little baits in the back hooks of plugs like corn and night crawlers to give a little extra attractant, but also some movement on your baits. And one tip when it comes to fishing plugs, make sure you got them clipped in or tied in, because not all plugs float on the water. Don't ask me why, I know. Now, coming in at bait number 8 is eggs. And eggs are one of my favorite all-time baits when it comes to stock trout fishing, especially in the fall and the winter time. The great thing about eggs is you can customize them however you want. If you're making your own spawn sacks or you're curing up some eggs, you have different cures, you have different colors, different attractants that you can add to them. You've got different spawn sack colors that you can use with your eggs to boat them underneath a bobber. And eggs are one of the most natural presentations for trout in general, but when it comes to stock trout, they go crazy for eggs. One of the best things about fishing eggs is you don't have to stick to one color. You can customize and change the variety of red, pink, or orange shades of your eggs. And if you're fishing with real eggs or spawn sacks, always wear some gloves because you don't want to get the oils from your fingers on those eggs. And if you're fishing with the reddest eggs possible, well, it might be really hard to explain to Fish and Wildlife why your hands are all red out in the middle of nowhere. Now, coming in at bait number 7, that's gonna be corn. And I'm really talking about corn right out of the can. It's probably one of the most simplest and easiest baits to fish for trout. And if you get a can of corn from the store, that'll go a long ways because there's a lot of corn kernels in there, and you could be fishing that for days, if not weeks on end, and it can store very easily. Now, in most hatcheries, trout are fed a corn meal-based food, so it's pretty obvious that corn should be one of the baits that you're fishing for stock trout and something they should be used to and eating. And that's why fishing corn is a really great bait. Now, one of the brands on the market, Potski, has fire corn in pink, white, and yellow. They got some different colors that you can utilize, and in fact, in some cases, I love to throw all 3 of those colors on one hook, one kernel each, and that can add a little bit of a different element with the corn scent of bait when you're chasing stock trout. To me, corn is a bait you can fish all year long in all different kinds of conditions. And what do you do if you go out fishing, you got a big old can of leftover corn that you're not going to use the next day? Well, make yourself some cornbread for dinner. It'll be delicious. Now, coming in at bait number 6, this is a very underrated bait in my opinion, and that is spoons. Now, spoons aren't the most popular bait out there because a lot of us like to fish spinners, but spoons have an element and they seem to always catch fish. And one of the reasons why spoons are great to fish with for stock trout is their erratic motion in the water, and you can reel them in at different speeds and different depths of the water column, which makes them super versatile. And for the most part, spoons are in more chrome colors. We're talking about copper, silver, and gold, and those are 3 colors when it comes comes to stock trout fishing in the early light and at the end of the day are really great to use. And silver would be throughout the day in high sun and in the warmer, sunnier days of the year. And out on the market, there are a bunch of different types of spoons, from very large ones to very more micro ones. So you got some different sizes of spoons that you can play with for stock trout. And with spoons, you can also troll them, but you can also cast them from shore. And that's one of the most deadly techniques and baits you can use for stock trout fishing. Now, coming in at bait number 5, this is one of the grossest baits and one that I hate to use, but it always catches trout, and that is worms and night crawlers. Probably one of the most tried and true baits out there that has been fished for hundreds of years. Night crawlers and worms are just something that are a go-to that you can catch trout anywhere across the country. And when you think bobber fishing for trout, worms has got to be one of the first baits that you're going to go to. It adds scent, it's got movement because that worm will be wiggling around, and underneath the bobber, you got a combination of the most natural bait possible and something that trout absolutely can't resist, whether you're fishing on big reservoirs or you're fishing on little ponds that have been stocked. And something that I have found over the last couple of years of fishing more worms is there's different sizes of night crawlers and worms that you can use. There's some larger, smaller ones, and there's some thinner and longer ones. One of the best things you can do is having different night crawlers to take out to the body of water to fish with. Some days they may like the fat ones, and some days they might like the skinnier ones. And something I would always advise when stock trout fishing with worms, get the freshest ones possible and keep them as cold as possible. If they get warm, they go bad very quickly. So take a cooler with some ice with you and keep those worms in the best condition possible, and that's going to get you more bites at the end of the day. Now, coming in at bait number 4, this has been a game changer for a lot of stock trout fishing anglers, and that is the trout magnet. Now, Leland's Lures came out with a trout magnet about 30 years ago, and anglers like myself have been crushing stock trout using the trout magnet. And more recently, they've come out with a lot more new colors, especially UV colors. But the tried and true trout magnet kit that's got orange and black and brown, white, yellow, green, those colors absolutely smash stock trout. And one of the best things with the trout magnet is you can fish it in all different types of bodies of water. You're talking about creeks, rivers, streams, little ponds, big reservoirs, in shallow, out deep. It doesn't matter the conditions, trout magnets just flat work. And the best part with the trout magnet is you can also add scent to those trout magnets, so you can pick a color and a scent combination. It gives you the ultimate palette, so you can choose what type of presentation that you want to present to the trout. And so if you can cook something up, you may be on the ultimate trout bite when you get the right color and the right scent. Now, coming in at bait number 3 is flies. And for fly fishing for trout is one of the most popular outdoor activities across the United States. But you can also fly fish for stock trout as well, not just wild and native trout. Now, I could do a 2-hour episode breaking down every single fly that you would want to fish for stock trout fishing. But for me, just pick the grubbiest looking flies and just start with those. Whether you want to fish them right under the surface with an indicator or you want something that floats on the top of the water, just pick a fly and go. Fly fishing for stock trout isn't necessarily the most sexy thing to do, and it's not necessarily the first bait we think of, but fly fishing in every style and body of water, you can fish flies, and that's why they're deadly effective for stock trout. So if you want to increase your catch percentage for stock trout, start thinking about using a fly rod next time you head out. Now, coming in at bait number 2 is dough. And I will have to admit, I might have a problem because I have maybe 70 jars of trout dough at home. I mean, I've got every single color, style, glitter, non-glitter, and scent. I love fishing for trout with dough. Trout dough is just easy. It's probably one of the first baits as kids we all use when catching stock trout. The simplicity of dough makes it great because you can plunk it off the bottom, which is where most trout are sitting or hanging out in most bodies of water. It's a very simple bait to shape. It's a very simple bait to put on the hook, and it's something that trout absolutely go nuts for. Now, there isn't a single day when I go stock trout fishing that I don't have trout dough with me when I'm out on the water. So if you're chasing stock trout, make sure you got that dough. So now that we've gone through baits 10 through 2, well, what's bait number 1? Well, you guys probably guessed it by now. That is spinners. And in the market, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of spinners, combinations, sizes, blade styles, blade colors, and pretty much everything in between. Spinners for me is the number 1 bait because you can fish it in all different conditions, all different bodies of water. You can troll with it, you can cast with it, you can even jig with it. It is the ultimate bait when it comes to chasing stock trout, and that's why it's number 1. And there you guys have it, the top 10 stock trout fishing baits that always work. Now, if there's a bait that didn't make the list and you think it always works, drop a comment below in the video and let me know know what is that bait that you think always works for stock trout. And I hope you got some information from today's video to help you catch more stock trout. And until next time, I'll see you guys on the water.